We gauge trust in so many different ways, through action, through word, through thought, and through sensation. There's a YouTube video that does a beautiful job of revealing the layers of trust or distrust built over time. It's called the Capuchin Monkey Fairness Experiment, and I really urge you all to watch the longer version, but ultimately the 1 minute version is just fine and certainly gets the point across just as effectively. A quick side note, I have no idea if these monkeys are capuchin monkeys or not. I have no idea what they are. I just took this photo in India as I was driving down a mountain. Okay, the Capuchin Monkey Fairness Experiment in a nutshell is the following. There are two monkeys in a test lab, both in separate cages but next to each other, and there's the person in the lab coat conducting the experiment. We'll call that person lab coat. The sequence is as follows. The monkeys are given a rock, they're asked to give the rock back, and when they do so, they're given an edible reward. So this is what happens. The white coat hands the monkey on the left a rock. The monkey, for whatever reason, tests the rock by tapping it against the metal frame or the metal wall, and then hands the rock back. In exchange, the monkey on the left is given a slice of cucumber. Okay, great. Now, the monkey on the right, given a rock. The monkey on the right tests the rock, hands the rock back to white coat, and is given a grape. The monkey on the left notices this. So when white coat gives the monkey on the left a rock, monkey on the left tests the rock, hands the rock back, and is given a slice of cucumber. The monkey on the left goes ballistic and tosses, actually aggressively flings, the slice of cucumber out the hole. This is repeated where the monkey on the right is given a rock and then rewarded by a grape, and then we repeat the sequence and hand the monkey on the left the reward of the cucumber. And it is absolutely heartbreaking to witness the results. So how did the monkey on the left, A, know that the other monkey was getting a grape versus a slice of cucumber? We can certainly say by sight or by memory, and we can definitely go with that. But B, what let the monkey know to get upset? Why didn't the monkey just think, oh well, such is life? Instead, it literally throws a fit. It shakes the plastic door, it pounds on the plastic wall, and it screams in anger. It's visibly upset. At the core of this fairness experiment is love and safety. And in order to measure love and safety in a particular moment, we use a very specific device called trust. So what is trust? Well, at a chemical level, it's oxytocin. If you watched Section 5, The Science of Love, you learned about all the different neurotransmitters and hormones that impact love. Oxytocin was certainly part of that equation. And where is oxytocin produced in the body? Well, both in the brain and in the blood. In fact, studies have shown that inhaling oxytocin with a nasal spray dramatically increases the trust factor between individuals, and more importantly, between strangers. So, short of going onto the black market to buy boxes of inhalers loaded with oxytocin, how else can you activate it in your system? Well, through a stimulus. When you're at a meeting and you've just finished presenting your proposal and you see nodding heads, that's the stimulus. When you shake someone's hand and they smile, that's stimulus. When a deadline has come and gone and you didn't get what you needed or were promised, that's stimulus. But here's an interesting addition we need to consider to the stimulus: the story of the stimulus. Dr. Dwayne C. Tway wrote a dissertation in 1993 titled A Construct of Trust, where he states trust is defined through three constructs. 1, the capacity for trusting. 2, the perception of competence. And 3, the perception of intention. I would venture to say that 1, the capacity of trust, is by default dependent on the amount of oxytocin your body is capable of producing. In an article by Eleanor Nelson dated on July 30th of 2014, Nelson cites a study done with the University of Wisconsin professor Seth Pollock and University of McGill professor Moshe Seif. In this study, it was shown that cells are actually genetically altered based on the levels of trauma, and varying levels of oxytocin are restricted at a cellular level, thereby causing increased risk of health problems and social psychological problems, like maintaining healthy close relationships with others throughout their adulthood. They were able to distill it down to a gene called the NR3C1, a gene that helps manage stress. When the individual had experienced trauma, and often ongoing trauma in their childhood, this gene had tiny quartets of carbon and hydrogen that stuck to the DNA and derailed the cellular machinery that translated genes into proteins. When this happened, the NR3C1 is then signaled to be on the lookout for cortisol and calm the body down. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone and is produced by the adrenal glands. It's triggered during the fight-flight response and is then secreted into the bloodstream. The issue is when the body is no longer able to regulate the levels of cortisol because we're always on the lookout or have the experience of chronic stress, then our system is forgetting to turn off and move back into the relaxation state. Basically, our sympathetic nervous system is set to on, and we're challenged in moving back to the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest state. When the NR3C1 has those extra carbons and hydrogens attached to it, it cannot produce the proper amount of receptors to return the body to a calmed state. The most amazing part of the NR3C1 study is that they found this state wasn't permanent. Awesome, right? That once the individual began to experience varying levels of nurturance, those particular carbon and hydrogen atoms previously attached to the NR3C1 released themselves and simply disappeared. Near as I can see it, when we trust, we release oxytocin. When we distrust, we release cortisol. But here is something magical to consider if you want to increase trust with others around you, and more importantly, with yourself. Become accountable. Yeah, accountability breeds relief. When we have a sense of relief, we're able to breathe deeper. Thank you, vagus nerve. We're able to move from cortisol to oxytocin. Thank you, autonomic system. And we're able to recalibrate our story, which is just another word for stimulus. Thank you, reticular activating system. But wait, we still have to go back to Dr. Tway's dissertation and his three constructs. So we covered one, but I'll list them again. One, the capacity for trusting, the oxytocin cortisol dynamic. And then two, the perception of competence. And three, the perception of intentions. The key operative word in 2 and 3 is what? Perception. Take a moment and look at this image. What is this image? Well, it's a map of the world which people would consider is upside down. But the reality is the earth is round and there's no top on a ball. We've just become really acclimated to seeing the world on a map presented to us in a particular way. This type of map is called a Dymaxion map and was created in 1943 by Buckminster Fuller. When we look at this image, some of us might say, wow, this is just wrong. But is it wrong just because we're used to seeing something a certain way all your life? The definition of perception is a way of regarding understanding or interpreting something. Paul Zak, a neuroeconomist who has an interesting TED Talk, says countries with higher proportion of trustworthy people are more prosperous, that more economic transactions occur and more wealth is created, thus alleviating poverty. Things that make you go,